Today's video, installing the Firecuda 530 into this lovely machine. Welcome back to another video. My name is Nikos. Today we are installing the NVMe SSD Firecuda 530 hard drive into this awesome, lovely machine. The goal is quite simple: to do a step-by-step walkthrough of an install of a hard drive such as this. So you can use this walkthrough with any kind of NVMe SSD drive. Do not stress, it will be a similar manner. I'm just using this as the example because I just picked it up and I want to answer a lot of the questions that I typically get asked, such as, should I install this on the CPU lane, or what's the difference with the PCIe lane, etc., etc. Now, this is the hardware version of the install. There will be a software version, the Windows install. It's going to have my step-by-step approach of what I do based on my workflow, so maybe it will help people who are in similar situations such as me, or if you're trying to develop your workflow and figure out how to do things a little bit quicker. So I will leave that link below. Do hit subscribe and the bell so you can get notified. Now, I will also be making a video review of this hard drive right here, the Firecuda 530 with the heatsink. I have made a previous video where I review the non-heatsink version. I will leave that link below, so do check that out, and then I will let you know when I make the review with this heatsink and see if that's actually as good as people say it is. And hopefully we don't go over that 70-degree mark that we saw previously. So again, hit subscribe and you'll see that video, and then it'll make more sense for you to figure out what is best for you if you're thinking about buying one of these drives. So let's start. So the first thing we're going to do is just shut this down, and we're just going to hold down the button just to empty it up. Now, the idea here is very simple. We're going to be opening this up, taking off the glass. Make sure you don't ruin this glass, needs some cleaning. Now, you do want to have one of these kits, 20 bucks, and you have all the bits. Get one that has pretty much all the bits that you can find. Treco, I will link this one below, but anyone is fine. Now, in any motherboard, what you'll find is the PCIe slot 1 and then the PCIe slot 2. And the idea here is very simple. You would put the video card on the 1, and then you would have another slot free. You could put another video card down here if you did want that, or you would just be able to say put in something like a card like this, an extension card. And on this extension card, what you'll see is the opportunity for you to put another SSD. Why? Because in my motherboard, I only have the first SSD slot and then the second SSD slot. So the idea would be that the first one is connected to the CPU, so it will be the faster SSD slot, and then there's a second one down here that will be a slower SSD slot because it's connected to the PCIe lanes. Now, the other motherboards that exist out there will have another third SSD, and some come with even 5. And then there are other motherboards that have another PCIe slot as well. Those will be a little bit slower, so you got to be really attentive to what you're going to be using this for. The other option here is if you have this 4-pinned PCIe, and that's a little bit smaller, and you do have 8 pins as well in some motherboards, but usually they come in a X4, you would see it, or an X16. Now, this is the Sabrent heatsink, and inside I do have the 2 terabyte SN850, and you do see on the inside there are 2 thermal pads that I have placed in there, so it keeps this nice and cool. I can't complain. What you can do for this second slot is purchase one of these extensions that are an X16, and basically it does come with a heatsink on it, and all you're going to be doing is connecting your drive in here, and basically you are good to go. Now, it does come with a crappy heatsink, so on that you would want to put some cooling pads on there. Now, this PCIe card is a connector for a drive. It is a Gen 3. It literally tells you on here that it is a Gen 3 SATA M.2. And I was looking at the numbers, I was looking at the lanes, and I thought I tested out because I couldn't find one that's a Gen 4 at a relatively good price. This one came out to I think it was like 20 bucks. So I'll link it below either way. And it did the trick. Now, it came with a crappy heatsink, of course, but at least we have something that does the job and does the job good. If you do have a crappier type of heatsink, make sure you get thermal pads and you put the thermal pads on to make sure that they keep the drive cool. However, I'm going to be putting this Firecuda drive on there so I can make sure that it is operating on the PCIe lane. Now, the reason I am going to be doing this is because the actual drive will work fast on the PCIe lanes. And because it will work fast, we will be able to see the difference and from the SN850. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which lane you put it in when you're seeing the high speeds, because it is pretty much you're looking at it in a negligible manner. So that's all you would do there. That would just be hanging right underneath and you're good to go. Now at the bottom here, you will have the plate that I just removed. Now this plate does come with a thermal pad that you can see has turned kind of disgusting. I'm going to be replacing this and then reinstalling that drive. The drive only has one little screw right here, and basically we're just going to be removing that and we're off to the races. I am going to be removing this and replacing it with the other two thermal pads from the other drive. Now this SN850 is the drive I'm going to go with. I will be putting a thermal pad on this bad boy just to make sure that it is all good to go. And basically I will just slide it into the PCIe lane. Now the reason I'm putting it on the PCIe lane is because it is super fast. Some people will say, oh, you need it to be on the CPU lane. However, the reality is that the speed at which it's going at, you're not going to notice any difference. At the same time, I'm going to be putting on the heatsink that comes with the motherboard, and this is basically good to go. So we're just going to install it in here. We are then going to install the Firecuda in the next PCIe lane. And from my numbers, this has been working at a super fast rate. And then, of course, I'm going to go back in and install the SN850 at the top CPU SSD lane, because why not? And you have the fastest speed there, and then we'll just package it, close it all up, and be good to go. So I'm going to be coming back in here to clean it up a little bit after. I just want to make sure that this is all operating and good to go. I might have to remove the drives around with my testing to make sure that it is all operational to my liking. But other than that, that's all you would do to install something like this. And I mean, everybody does something different, of course, but in general, this is the step-by-step approach. We're gonna fire it up and see if the Firecuda got picked up. Once again, this is the CPU laned SSD NVMe drive. It's connecting right to the CPU. It is the 2 terabyte SN850. It will work as quick as the Firecuda that's under here. And of course, that's connected to the PCIe lane along with the Windows drive. And the Windows drive will be a little bit slower because it's on the PCIe lane, but they're so fast that it's not going to be that much of a difference. It's going to be negligible if you think about it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is come into create and format hard disk partitions. So you can just search it really quick down here. I've already opened it before, and this will open up and it'll automatically recognize there's a new disk in here. And this new disk is a disk 3 GPT. Partition table is what we're going to go for, and I'm just going to initialize this, and now we will have unallocated space here. Let me just make this a little bit bigger, and we see that there is unallocated space. I do have my other drives here with the disk 0, disk 1, and disk 2, and the Google Drive, of course, and the C drive. Now what I'm going to do here is just create a new simple volume, and I'm going to just go ahead and just run it as an E drive that I had before. And then it's going to be an NTFS volume allocated side. I'm just going to go for default, and I'm just going to call this the temp drive. And I'm going to do a quick format, and we will be set. And we're good to go. Now, this will open up. We are good to go in that manner. Let's open up Crystal Disk Mark, and let's run this to see how we do here. So this should be good, interesting results. And we can compare them to the SN850 that was in the same slot. And of course, what we want to do as that's running a test is to open up the HWin info. If you don't have this program, do download it, run it. And basically what we're going to see here is the speed. We're going to see where it's matching up with the speeds. And we're also going to start logging in the heat, because we want to make sure that the heat is good. So let's just scroll all the way down. And here now we're seeing the Samsung Smart Drive. This is the 1 TB. It's running at 29 degrees. It never gets hot on the back of the machine. We do have the 2 TB drive. It's 36 degrees. It's not being used right now. The Western Digital with Windows on it is 39 degrees. And we can see the Seagate Firecuda with this test is 32 degrees. It's doing good right now. Let's see what is occurring. It already has 1 GB total rate host. Intriguing. Total host reads. And we can see here the read and write on the sequential is around 6150 on the read and 6000 on the write. Now, in comparison, what we do see is a 6000 on the read and 5200 on the write with the SN850 in this drive. We do see a little bit of a faster drive when it comes to the random, but you know, again, you're looking at this and you're saying, which one is the better drive overall? Well, we're going to do more testing and we're going to see how that plays out. On the sequential, it's doing better, but I mean, when it comes to the random 4K, it's a tad slow on the read. However, on the write, and this is what I was talking about before, we do see it perform in more cases than not in all these tests. It performs better on the write. So this is why I would be putting it on the bottom PCIe lane, because it is showing a better improvement on the write. Now I'm going to be doing my tests on both the top and bottom to see which one plays a better role and compare the drives and see how the temperature goes, so we can look at this heatsink and see if it's worth it. And just like that, it's installed. Easy peasy. Took about 20 minutes overall. It should take you a little bit longer the first time you do this, but this should be something that you should be able to do without having to go to a computer person to spend 20, 30, 50 bucks, whatever they charge at the computer store, for them to install it. And you lose like a whole, half day for this to be installed. It was a quick process. Can't complain at all. And if you can't do it, then you take it in. Easy. Now, if you only have 2 slots like I do and you want to put a third one in, I do recommend getting the PCIe card and just throwing in this drive in here. Now, this will come with a heatsink. Make sure you get extra thermal pads and put in some quality thermal pads in there, just so you can be a little bit on the cool side. If you do get another type of heatsink, just know that they're all going to be within variable. So if you want to make it look cooler, then yes. But if no, this has done the trick. So we're going to see how better this drive does perform with the heatsink. I'm going to be doing my tests all over again, comparing that. So do hit subscribe. And of course, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think overall. What has been your experience? And check out these 2 videos.